Hi, everybody. It's Mike Taggart from attainableflies.com. I want to share a little quick story about this wonderful little bug that we've got going on here. Let me slide my vise over a little bit into the camera. There we go. That's better. This fly started out as my explorations into tying a black caddis. That led me down the pathway of looking at some of the classic sedge patterns from England, and I came up with this fly, and you'll notice that it's got a little more straggly wing on it than what you're used to seeing with the caddis, a little less defined. And it's also got some pretty good barbing underneath there. That's legging that goes on it. I took it out fishing on Cedar Creek here in Virginia, and it was a March day. It was cold. It was raining. There wasn't much happening, and I finally hooked a bluegill on a black pattern, kind of I want to say it was a midge-looking pattern near the surface, and that turned me over to using a black fly. Well, this was the only black fly that I had that was top water, and I could see some swirls at the top of the water from the fish. I threw this out there, and sure enough, I hooked about 6 different trout on this one that day. So I've been a believer in this pattern ever since. It has always produced very well for me. So this is my black sage, or sedge pattern. Let me say it correctly. And it starts out with, I'm using for this demonstration a Mustad CO68, and this is 2X, 2XH, 2XS, which is 2 extra hard, 2 extra short from Mustad. This is a size 10. I really like these for my caddis because I use them a lot as dry droppers. Along with that, I'm going to use some 72 denier uni thread. I'm going to use some black cow body hair, and this is actually dyed black. You can see that. So this is cow body hair. And then I'm going to use some of Whitlock's SLF, and this is his this is dubbing blend number 1 is the actual Wapsi pattern on that, and I'm using the brown, the dragonfly brown, and so it's the dark that's right there. So we're going to fix our hook into the vise. There we go. And this hook has a bend to it. So the point and the barb go away from each other a little bit. That helps with the hook set a lot. And when you've got a finicky trout, that could help. I'm going to start my thread, as you can see, about a hook eye back, and then I'm going to lay my wraps down, create my jam nut there, and then I'm going to bring it back about in line with bend of the hook, or with the barb of the hook. There we are. Having trouble getting my words out today. Now, I'm going to reach in here. I'm going to add one other thing. If I can get it off my bench here. There we go. I have very poor feeling in my fingers, so grabbing little bits of wire off of my bench is sometimes hard. There we go. So a little bit of, and this is UTC brassy size copper wire. And I'm going to lay this in, And when I'm putting this on, you see how I've got the curved wire right there. Yeah, you pull it off. You can spend a lot of time straightening that wire, but keep it down underneath. I'm going to wrap that up. And I'm going to bring that wrap all the way back down. And this is one of the features of this fly, is that it starts to come down the bend of the hook. And that's important because with this fly, I wanted to sit on the surface with a little bit of the body sitting down, especially in colder weather. I find that the fish will appreciate it more if it's down just slightly under. So kind of, I just emerged and I'm not fully done with my shuck yet, and here I am. Now this is a little bit of wax, and for this one I use Low Tack by J. Stockard. I find it's really good for this. You could also use a tyer's wax or a cobbler's wax, but in this case I'm going to use the Low Tack. I'm going to pull out a little pinch of the dubbing, kind of floof it out a little bit. That's a technical term, floofing. And I'm going to put this on really sparse and just create a little noodle there. I'm not doing a dubbing loop. I'm not doing a split thread on this. This is going to be a fairly simple dubbing noodle here. And get that on. Wants to break apart in that piece. Now I'm going to wrap that on around. And you see that body is not big and bulky. I'm seeing a lot of guys on the internet are going, yeah, I'm going to go sell my flies. I've been tying for about 2 weeks. No, you're not. And I see their bodies are just really, really huge. So for this, you just need a nice tapered body. Now the last component to this, and I have a little bit of it left here. Let's use this one. This is a good one. Is a little bit of hackle. This is a neck hackle from Ewing, and I'm just going to catch that in. And for those of you who haven't heard me say it before, a little interesting tidbit. You notice I've got fibers on the close to me side and pulled away so that you've got just bare rachis on the away from me side. And what that does is, watch this, as you go around the fly, look how those fibers stand up. That's what we want. That gets your first couple of wraps on there. And you're going to wrap this, of course, with the shiny side facing the head of the fly. And you're going to space this out. This is almost like you would palmer a woolly bugger or something like that. But you want to have this so that you've got spacing in there. And that's important. Then we take the copper wire and we're going to come backwards around, and I'm going to wiggle this in between those fibers as I come around. Well, that's important because we don't want to mash those fibers down. But when you put the copper wire, see, now the hackle is in place. It's not going anywhere. That wire is holding it down. So I'm going to wiggle that in. Bring those wraps around. Here we go. Get that rib in there. This is more to hold this hackle than it is to create a rib. But it never hurts to have a rib on a dry fly, because that gives you that segmentation of a live fly. I'm going to pull the wire over here just a little bit. There we go. Just give that a little floof. Make sure that's where I want it, and helicopter that wire. And I've got a little bit left, so I'm just going to take my, don't panic, these are my yucky scissors, and just give them a little clip there. And cover the end of that wire up. Now I'm going to take my hackle and pull up on it just a little bit. And just pressure that off. There we go. And that one's not quite bit down on the end, but that's all right. We can just clip that off as well. There we go. I'm doing this without my magnifying glass, so there we go. I can see it now. There we go. So you see, it's not necessarily pretty. I'm there to get some support to the fly and to get some legs up underneath of it. Now comes the fun part. And you'll notice this is not a very difficult fly. This is a typical caddis pattern. It's just the materials that make it so unusual. So we're going to get a clump of hair. I'm going to pull the shorts off. And then I'm going to take my little comb. And somebody emailed me and asked me what this little comb is. Well, I'll be honest, it came with a micro stacker that I got from CNF. Here's the micro stacker. But this is a mustache comb. Very, very nice for doing this. You can use one of those ones you get at the pharmacy for getting lice larvae out of some kid's head. But that little comb is very convenient and does a great little job. All those fibers go into the stacker. Give it a good little bounce. And you always take your fibers out in the direction that you're going to lay them. You'll see we've got a few stragglers there. We're going to pull those away. And now we have the proper little clump that we want there. Now, I'm going to measure this so that it's right about to the end of the bend of the hook. Now, I'm going to do a pinch wrap. So I've got my thread pinched right there. I'm going to get it around, and I'm going to just gently pull up and start compressing. I don't want to just jerk this thread down. I want to get a good flat clump going right here. And after you get a couple of those pinch wraps on there, then you can tie it down. And that keeps that head from spinning, which is what we don't want it to do. We want to be able to trim that off and make a really nice, good looking caddis head on there. Now I'm going to bring my thread in the front and give it a bunch of wraps right there. You see, now it's standing up. That's where we want it. Let's do a couple more there. That's beautiful. Okay, we're almost there. Now I'm going to reach in with my scissors. And there's a lot of guys who have different opinions of how to do this. I like to lay my scissors right across, give it a good one solid all the way across. That gives it a nice flat top haircut right there. And that's the little sedge right there. Now to tie this off, I'm going to use a a half hitch tool. I'm going to reach in here, do a quick half hitch right up against the front there. Grab my larger one here. There we go. And that's going to push that thread right up under that clump of hair and lift it up and lock everything in place. Now, to finish this fly, I'm going to come in with my whip finish tool and set up my whip finish tool. I'm going to come in here and do about a 4-turn whip finish, maybe 5 on there, and drop it right there. I'm going to clip away my thread. Now you notice I'm not clipping. I'm just kind of laying the scissors right up against it and pulling the thread. My scissors never closed. So that's all you need to do with these. If you start clipping, you can clip things off that you don't want to. On the final piece on this is I flip it over and a little bit of head cement. In this case, I'm going to use some Sally Hansen's. I'm just going to drop it right there. All right. Let that soak in a second. I can turn this back over. And that's the black sedge. And as always, if you try this pattern, you catch a fly with it, or catch a fish with it, take a picture of the fly with the fish, and preferably in its mouth. But if you take a picture of the fly with the fish and email it to me, michaeltaggart55@gmail.com, I'll be more than glad to send you a dozen of these flies. As always, like and share this video and send it out to all your friends and get them to like my YouTube channel as well. I do appreciate it. This is the black sedge.